80% died. Why did they die? Because obviously they didn't want to leave even up to that point. So the Baruch Hashem said, if I let them stay in Mitzrayim, they will become goyim. You see it. So it's better that they die and have a Gilgul to come back to them a second that than they should become assimilated with Mitzrayim completely. That's what it's called Mem Tesharet Tumah. You see it. It means that they were so far away from Ruchnius that they were masking, they were agreed to the fact that, something, so we'll become an Egyptian, okay? So you see clearly from the story, which is really not told directly, that obviously there was a tremendous machlokes going on between Moshe Rabbeinu and the Jews, whether they should leave or not. And the Baruch Hashem decided by the 9th Makkah Choshech to take his hand on things and say, something, the test is over for you guys. You see it. Now it makes much more sense. But we see something unbelievably frightening. Incredibly frightening. What? We see that there was a final test. Before you can leave a golus, the Baruch Hashem tests you to see where you're holding. For example, it's like a show. Let's say you have a Broadway show, okay? If you want to go to a Broadway show, let's say it's a Broadway show being held. You got to buy a ticket. You can't just walk into a Broadway show, even though it's playing. You got to buy a ticket, right? Well, I'm not talking about you guys, but Stammer guy, okay? So the ticket allows you to go into the theater, and it tells you where you sit. So obviously there was a conversation between the Sultan and the Baruch Hashem, so to speak. What did he say? He said to Baruch Hashem, look, I see that the Gula is happening over here. So the Baruch Hashem says, no, yeah, that's true, Kaviyachol. So he said, but they don't deserve it. They don't deserve this Gula. So the Baruch Hashem says, so what's the problem? He said, look, even if you make a Gula, you can just participate in the Gula because it's happening. You got to buy a ticket. In other words, I'm going to give in the Soyan and they'll see the pass. Whoever passes participates in the Gulu. Who doesn't pass will not participate. So you see a schreckliche thing. That this whole thing with the Chaval Chamishim Olu had to do with some kind of subtle, hidden, tremendous action, tremendous, what do you call, resistance to what's going on there. And 4/5 died. This is not a joke. This is incredible. So we see that the final Nisayon always takes place. Always. A final Nisayon takes place. Always. You see, before you leave a Goddess. Achim's gracious. We can now expect a final Nisayon. It's like graduation. How do we know we're about to graduate? When you get the final. And you think you're going to graduate without a mark on the final? No way. No way. So it's the same thing. The Baruch Hashem says, you want to graduate? Take the final. So we're seeing it's interesting, when you look at the story this way, it's different. It's almost like a different story in a certain sense. What's important is invisible, and what seems to be on the surface is visible. But when you look at the story, it's completely different. Now, let's come to another part of the story, which is really interesting. Very few people realize this. Okay. Did we win over Mitzrayim? Did we win? Okay, we left. Mazel tov. 20% left. Mazel tov. Then we left, we went to Yam Suf, and they chased us again to bring us back. Did they get a hold of us and get us back? No, they all died. So it would seem from those two events that Klal Yisrael won. They didn't win. We lost. We lost to Egypt. There were 3 battles that Egypt had with the Jewish people to resist the transfer of Bechor. So you have to understand something. You think because you want to go over and take somebody's money, he's going to sit back and give you a bracha? No, he's going to fight you tooth and nail. You can't walk away with somebody's assets. And Mitzrayim knew they were the kingpins of the world. They were the top sorcerers. They were the greatest empire on earth, the greatest nation on earth at that time. You think they're going to suddenly let you walk away with something, especially their power and their pride? And so, of course not. So they battled the Jews. They battled Jews what? In terms of the Makkahs, they lost. They battled Jews by Kriyas Yam Suf, they lost. The 3rd battle, they won. And because they won, we have never successfully left Mitzrayim. Now you all look at me like, what am I talking about? What? Right. Let's go the ways we lost. We lost it by the Egel Hazov. What was that about? Moshe Rabbeinu goes up on the mountain to bring down the Torah. That's the second part of the Gula, isn't it? What? The introduction of the Or. And what happened? You see, you have to understand what the real story of the Jews won in that time. You see, what happened was the Baruch Hashem was transferring the operational system from Torah to Torah. But what the Baruch Hashem also wanted was that when the Jews got out of Egypt, okay, they would make a new Torah, a Chodesh al Sion. The new Torah was Tayag Mitzvahs. And the new Torah wasn't the Tzur, what's called the Tzur of the Old Mashiach. It was the Nun Sharei Bina. Moshe Rabbeinu, when the first Luchas brought down the Nun, the 50th gate. It wasn't Stam. And with that 50th gate, with this new Or Chodesh, and with the Tayag Mitzvahs, they were supposed to go into Eretz Yisrael and bring a Gula in the structure, in the format of the 50th gate. We don't even know what that looks like. And you should know something. Had they done that, had the Jews then not done the Egel, and they would have what? They would have received it and everything. They would have had the Nun Sharei Bina A. Moshe Rabbeinu would have been the Mashiach, Ben Yosef then B. C. They would have gone into Eretz Yisrael without a fight, without a battle. You see, when you read Yoshua, you think, well, that's the way they had to do it. And of course not. They had to do it that way because the whole scenario changed from the Chet of the Egel and the Meraglim. Do you see my point? That's why Yoshua had to fight. He had to do a Melchama. Look, when Moshe took the Jews out of Egypt, was there a war? There was no war. There was no Melchama at all. It was a battle of what? Between the Stagninim, between the sources, the Machashvi Yitzrayim, the sources of Egypt, and between Moshe Rabbeinu. But it was a battle on the ultimate koichas of the Bria. There was no military confrontation at all. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Where do you see this? Where do you see this? Lo b'koyach v'lo b'choyo ki im beruchi. No, Masha, what is that? No. The Gula doesn't come b'koyach, with fights, and b'choyo with an army. Ki im beruchi, with a change in consciousness, with an elevation of ruchnius. That's the formula for Gula. Had that been, and that was happening in Mitzrayim, there was no war. You see it? And had the Kaddish been Makabel to tell you the 50th gate, the Nun Sharei Bina, right? That would have been it. And the 7 nations of Israel would have packed their bags and they would have left without one fight. Why suddenly did they fight? Because they knew that Kaddish failed. They were weak like Amalek. They knew. Amalek attacked the Jews but freed them Asher Rofa Yodem because they stopped learning Torah so much. In other words, these Goyim, they could sense the barometer where the Jew is holding. You know, they can sense the vulnerability of the Jew when they look at him in that way. Do you see my point? And that's when they attack. They don't dare attack when the Jew is invulnerable. We don't understand this. The whole story of Yitzis Mitzrayim would have changed drastically. Nevi'im would have changed drastically. Everyone on a different scenario. The foundation of the Torah would have been the same. But the manifestation, the way, the mikveh, the way it would have happened, would have changed. You see. So the hate of the Egel was profound. It changed the whole thing completely. You see. Now, just one aside, because I don't want to go to the hate of the Egel. But you remember one thing? Moshe Rabbeinu suddenly saw what happened. And the Banishim said to him, these people have been, what, they did the hate of the Egel, okay? And therefore they have to be destroyed and a new nation is from you, okay? And Moshe Rabbeinu says, I don't want to do this. I cannot be civil, this kind of thing and so on forth. So he started to think about, what was Moshe's problem? He knew that there was a solution. He knew the solution to the problem, but he didn't know if it's possible. What was the solution to the problem? It's very simple. If the Or of Mashiach is here and Klal Yisrael is here, that means that the nation is ready to receive the level of the 50th gate of the light of Mashiach. But because of the Chet Egel, the Jewish people dropped to here, which means that there was no parallelism anymore. That's why the Banishim said, they're there, the Jewish people, Klal Yisrael is there, and the Or of Mashiach, the Nun is here, no meeting. Therefore, let's get rid of these guys, start with someone else new, so that we can have the meeting. So Moshe Rabbeinu said very simple. He knew that the Or Mashiach was here and they were here. He knew you couldn't raise the Jews. They had to die. But he said, wait a minute, maybe we could take the Nun, the 50th gate, and bring it down so that suddenly there's a parallel again. But wait a minute. Since the 6 days of creation, nobody ever took the light of the Mashiach and put it into the Klippa, put it into Zoyama, put it into a Tumah. It never happened. So Moshe Rabbeinu did not know, is it possible? But he knew that if it was possible, okay, you could take the light of Mashiach, put it into the same low place that the Jews was. You can take the Shekhinah and slip it down to the same place that the Jews are, okay, and now they're on the same level. One day, therefore, it will be revealed again. But he knew also that you wouldn't have to bring a new light. He knew that, you see, because the light is here. That's why he broke the luchas. When he broke the luchas, What he was doing is saying is that the light of Mashiach now looks like you. Just like you look like a bunch of broken people, the light of Mashiach is broken. And in that way he saved Klal Yisrael. But he didn't know if he could do it. Why? What was the suffering? Because he knew that the whole concept of Klal Yisrael was to guarantee them. Because he knew they were entering into the Tkuf of Torah. But he did not know if the guarantee was so powerful that there was a concept of Rachamim that was so unbelievable that it can take the highest level of Emes, the Nun or the Old Mashiach, and conceal it into a darkness. How do you conceal pure truth in darkness? How do you do it? So he didn't know if that was possible. He knew it may be possible. Because he knew the concept of Torah was a guarantee, a self-correcting system. But he didn't know if the self-correction was so subtle that it can even, what? It can introduce this. That's why when the Rebbe said, Hanicheni, leave me, he said, guess what? You're in luck. The guarantee, the switch from Torah to Torah is so awesome. The switch from Tzaddik Hashem B'chol Dvochav to Chos B'chol Masav is so complete that I can even take absolute truth and hide it and cover it. I can master Yehudi in this way. It's incredible. That's why he saved them. Because he saw this cheshbon. That's why he's Rai Mehemna. He was such a tremendous leader. He saw what he could do and he negotiated the bunch. Not easy. That's a lawyer you want to have when you go up to bed in Shemala. Trust me. No matter what his rates are per hour. Now, who made Klal Yisrael sin? We finally reach our goal, right? The Erev Vav. Who is this Erev Vav? Who are they? Well, the Erev Vav were the Egyptians. But these Egyptians were very smart. Just like by Yoina, right? That when the storm came up, suddenly, when they threw Yoina into the ocean, in the whale, the storm stopped and it says, Vayidu Nedom, they all became Jewish because they saw the power of God. So what happened is, many Egyptians saw what the Banishim was like, and they said, you know something? Count me in. I want to be part of this thing, and so on and so on. So they joined, and they called the Erev Vav the mixed multitude, but they're really former Egyptians that became converts, and they're called Gerei Arroyos. In other words, converts who are forced, as if they're forced by lions, and so on, you see. And that's the Erev Vav. Now, we normally see the story as a separate story. We see the story as being separate, but the truth is, it's not separate. This is the third battle of the Egyptians. And the Egyptians succeeded in stopping the Geula according to the format of Tayyag and the 50th gate. They succeeded. What that means is that we have not really taken back the Bechor. We have not really done that.
Well, why didn't Moshe Rabbeinu let him in?
That's a question. Why the Rebbe said don't do it? He said don't do it. So well, it's good. It's a whole discussion. Why did he do that? That's who Moshe was. Moshe was an incredible tzaddik. He felt that if people want to become Jewish, they have to. He did it because he followed the Banishim. The Banishim went around to every nation and asked them to want to makabel the Torah. So then, how could you say to the Erev Vav you can't come? The Banishim himself said, I want everybody.
But Hashem said no.
So the shayla is, why didn't he listen to the Banishim? That's a difficult one. But we understand he was modeling the Banishim. He was modeling it. Just like Hashem went around to all the nations of the world to ask them to be part of the Klal Yisrael, they were all accepted. So why deny them? Why did the Banishim say don't accept them? Why? Why did the Banishim do it? Why did he go to all? He didn't go to Egypt. I don't think Egypt was included in that because he said to Moshe, "You're right. If you go to any other nation, you want to do it, fine. But this Erev Vav, these are Egyptians. These were your enemies. You don't want us to take your former enemy now and to bring him into your camp. He's a fifth column. He's so shaky and unstable. You're risking the tremendous thing. You see what I'm saying? So look, I can't answer that fully. Why he actually went over and actually did that kind of thing. Okay. How are we doing? It's a little hot here. Is it warm? What's that? Is it all right?
Good.
Go.
It would have been a bigger ticket though had the Erev Vav come around though.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, that's something we explored, we looked at. So.
When Mitzrayim, when the Torah was taken away from Mitzrayim, where do we see that night it went to Klal Yisrael? Where do you see it? By the Natsal?
Because it says there, Kadesh li is called Bechor. Sanctify all the Bechor. Because he says, because I killed all the Bechor of Mitzrayim. So you see the parallelism. Why is it now that the Bechor of Klal Yisrael, the firstborn of Klal Yisrael, were Kadosh? Because of the death of the firstborn. What does one have to do the other?
Right, you see the Neshama being schlepped out of they died. You don't see that.
Well, that's a what, but you can see. But you see that the distinction of the power of Bechor and the Jews came from the death of the loss of the Egyptians. Obviously, that's a transfer. You don't see it, but that's obviously a transfer. You see it clearly. You know? So this is very, very important. Now, one more thing. What's the definition of an Erev Vav? What is an Erev Vav? And this is important. The Erev Vav were people who became Jews. Okay. So what was their thinking? You see, and it tells you something about who an Erev Vav is. Because an Erev Vav is not someone that comes over and tells you not to be religious. He doesn't do that. He doesn't come over and say, okay, that the Torah is false. He doesn't. What he does is he goes into the Torah itself and changes what the Torah is saying itself and saying, this is what God said. And that's why you find that the Erev Vav always comes from within. It always bases itself on the emes that you produce. It distorts that emes, but it doesn't cancel the emes. You know, it's like a partial lie. It lives, it's like a parasite. It lives on you and distorts what you're saying. And so on. But it doesn't negate what you're saying and say it's sheker. It's saying, no. This is what it means. It's a deviation. That's the power of the Erev. That's why it's so hard to recognize it. Okay, we finished. On that. So that's what happens when you start late. This was not a sheer start late.
Night is young.
What?
Night is young.
Nobody's in a rush.
What's that?
Nobody's in a rush.
No, I hope that nobody fades out.
No, we're here.
It's an assign.
You're in trouble. You have 2 hours, an hour and a half. We're 5 minutes away.
The bigger the shit, the
Skip over.
more the Ketruga. What are you going to do?
There's absolutely major Ketruga on this year.
So what you
Absolutely. You see it yourself.
Yeah.
It's tonight. It's the last minute switch. You know.
We have to get around it.
Well, we'll see in a minute what this is. Let's quickly go on. I'll probably finish by 12, okay?
So what's the definition of
We have the
Erev
night.
Vav?
What's that?
What's the definition of Erev Vav?
The definition of an Erev Vav is he doesn't cancel your emes. What an Erev Vav does, he says fundamentally that the Torah that is there is true up to a point. What he does is simply transform aspects of the Torah and creates a sheker. But he doesn't combat it, he doesn't fight it. In a sense.
From a Pekadosh.
It's a from up, right. It's a guy who attacks from inside the system itself. And so on. And you'll see this always in the Erev Vav, we'll see this again. Okay. Now, let's leave Mitzrayim and now let's go to today. Okay. How do we understand what's happening today? How do we understand that? Okay. And this is something we have to look at very, very carefully. How do we understand? First of all, you have to understand something, what the thing is. Now you understand why in the last generation, why we have to face the Erev Vav. Why? Why is it that the Gemara identifies the Erev Vav as the last enemy of the Jewish people, really? Why? Because fundamentally, we never left them. They won in the end because they stopped the Geula. Yeah, we got out of Egypt, but we didn't get out of them. They stopped the Geula. So we have to come back to them in the final conflict and win that. It was we have to dismiss the Erev Vav at the end by simply refusing to deal with what they have. That's why the Erev Vav, okay, the mixed multitude and so on, is the last one. Who are they? Well, fundamentally they became Jews. So there are many Jews out there today who are descended or spiritually are empowered by the Erev Vav.
Because the Egel.
What?
Because
of the Egel. Had we not done the Egel, we wouldn't have an Erev Vav at all.
Live that in a
We have to, because we know every time you failed something, you got to redo the tikkun. Yeah, that's a tremendous. Well, that's the whole thing. That's why. I mean, when I figured this out, I said, "Wow, it's it's interesting." There's a tremendous reason why we've got to revisit this situation. You know. Okay. Now, let's look at the last Gula today. Okay. And we're going to see some very important things about the Erev Rav and what that battle is. Okay. First of all, there's something called the Mashiach's contract and the Mashiach clause. And I'm not going to be myrich on this, but this is extremely important because it's the whole concept of Mashiach. Okay. There was a conversation between the Mashiach and the Bnei Shalom at the beginning of creation, where the Bnei Shalom said, I need a neshama, a very great neshama, okay, to bear the chait of Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people, okay, so that the Midas HaRachamim can work. It needs someone, in a certain sense, to substitute for the Jewish people. Are you willing to take that job? So the Mashiach said, absolutely. So the Bnei Shalom said, here's the contract, sign. But that's not the actual, it's a Yaakov Shimon, but it's as if it's signed. So the Mashiach said, but wait, before I sign, let me give you my clause. My clause is if I'm going to do this already, okay, I want to save everybody. So what did he say? So he said, I want to take all those people in the Neshamas that would never have made it. They would never have made it, who lose their chelik l'elamabo, who are just, or have almost nothing left. And I want to be able to bear their sins as well. Yeah, that's what he said. So what he means is, I want to take all these guys, all these neshamas that should never have made it, or whatever the stories, and put them all in one generation, called the last generation. That's the Ikvos Mashiach. The Ikvos Mashiach, okay, of all the Jews, okay, that were also lands, that should not have made it, verschleppte Krent, ausgeklappte Oishanis. That's really what it is, and so on. Bring them all back in one time, okay, and let's see if we can't bring them, and so on. So the Bnei Shalom said, I don't want to go to mental, this itself is all schmooze, but he said, the Bnei Shalom says, but if you do that, you realize how long this is going to take? If we're going to save everybody, then human history has to go on and on and on till we just about save everybody. So the Mashiach said, yeah, okay, but I'm willing to do that. So the Bnei Shalom said, fine, put that clause in, and they all signed the document, so to speak. So suddenly, two angels came over, a couple of angels came over to the Mashiach, and they put a tremendous yoke on him. And he suddenly screamed, Loi bosu v'dom anochi. He said, how can I sustain this? Because, so the one who says...
He didn't know what he was getting involved in.
Well, he obviously didn't, or he was a little too enthusiastic there for a second. But the point is, so when he realized what it was, the Bnei says, don't worry, the Shekhinah also will take a part of that yoke. And there's a very deep things about this whole thing, but I don't want to go fully into that medrash. That medrash has to do with the whole concept of Mashiach. What it fundamentally means, okay, very simply, is that the Mashiach really represents Klal Yisrael. What does that mean? It means he looks like them. It means when they're Rishoyim, he looks like a Rasha. You cannot recognize him. When they're Tzaddikim, he looks like a Tzaddik. He is the mirror image of what Klal Yisrael looks like. You see, except the difference is that he's not a Rasha. He just looks like them, so he's devastated. That's why Yeshaya says that the Mashiach who comes in the end, it's the last generation, in a generation of all the what's called the last resort Jews, in that sense. He looks like them. He's like sick. It says there, he actually looks sickly, but we're not going to go into that thing. He looks terrible. You'd never know he's Mashiach. The last guy in the room would be him. That's what it is and so on. But that's the thing. But we see the important thing, that the content of the last generation are a bunch of Jews who fundamentally are the last resort Jews. What does the last resort Jew look like? A last resort looks like is what's called a Tinnik Shenishba. It's a Jew that almost knows nothing. Nothing. And he's being tested on the smallest little things left. That's what that is. That's the last resort Jew and so on. That means that the Ikvos Mashiach, which is the last generation, is composed of Klal Yisrael who are at the lowest level possible. That's what it means according to the Mashiach's contract. You see it. You see. Which means that their final test is different than the final test of the Jews that left Egypt. Their final test obviously has to deal with that low level. What that really means, and again, is that their final test doesn't involve all the mitzvahs that have to do between man and God. It involves the mitzvahs that have to do between man and man. That's what it means. Because those are more obvious than the ones that do man and God. So the main nisyonis and final test of the Jews at the end of time have to do with a Jew's relationship to another Jew. That's where the final tests have to come in. And who's responsible for administering that test? Well, our old cousins, the Erev Rav. Since we've got to pass the test, they're the ones who are going to deliver the test. Those are the proctors of the examination and the guys who write the exam. They're going to deliver that test to us. And the test has to do with Ben Adam Lechaveroi. That's what it is. Because we're on the lowest levels possible. So we begin to see the structure of what the final generations look like. Because you have to remember, The Erevav does not want to let, who's the last representation of Mitzrayim or Egypt, doesn't want to let the Bechor leave. So this is very important to understand. Very, very important. Esav is different than the Erevav. Totally different purpose. Even though we know that the last Shibud is Esav, the purpose of Esav is completely different than the Erevav. The purpose of Esav, like we're saying over here, is number one, is to be a substitute for the Jewish people, to bring the Torah thinking to the world, because as a Mamlech Kahanim, because the Jews failed to do it, and that we said before was Christianity. That's when Esav then becomes the one who delivers Torah thinking in the Tumah, in a bad way, but at least brings many concepts of Torah to the world. The Jews should have done that in a positive way, so Esav does it in a negative way. The second thing it does, it persecutes the Jews terribly, and by doing that, it clears them of the sin of sinas chinam, because all Christian anti-Semitism is sinas chinam itself. Christians hate Jews for no reason at all, other than the fact that they are not Christian. That's called sinas chinam, that's not a reason. And because the Jews suffered under pogroms and inquisitions and crusades and everything for 2,000 years because of this, okay, measure for measure, every instance of sinas chinam that the Jew had for each other, the Christians have for the Jew, on an exact balance. So the second function of Esav, okay, as a Christian, is to persecute and cause tremendous suffering to the Jews in payback for the suffering that they cause on each other. And the last thing is that Esav does, and we had to share in the Yotzai share, is Esav introduces what? After he introduces the concept of Gashmias, okay? That suddenly he creates the Industrial Revolution, especially in America, democracy which allows all opportunities to exist. There's no more class distinctions by birth. He allows what he called a tremendous the Industrial Revolution in terms of the possibility of opportunities and all kinds of technological advances and stuff like that. And he creates an environment where who wants to be spiritual? Would much rather be Gashmiistic. So he creates Tinik Shinijbu on that level. So Esav has a different job. The Erevav, however, has a different job. The job of the Erevav is to come back. Okay, so Esav functions as in a certain sense as a benefit to the Jewish people. The war between Esav and the Jews, in a way, is beneficial because he's trying to restore the Jews like Esav is restoring Yaakov as the Bechor, which we spoke about in a whole different year. The Erevav is different. The Erevav has no desire to benefit. The Erevav wants to stop the Jew in his track and prevent the transfer of the Bechor. That's a real war. That's a real enemy. That's why Erevav doesn't do tshuva. Esav does. Very different. You see, it's a whole different program. They don't do tshuva. I don't see anywhere where they suddenly do tshuva in the end.
How do they differentiate from Amalek?
Amalek is the worst part of Esav. Amalek is the part of Esav that comes up right before the Geula, like by Purim and by the World War II.
But Amalek is not trying to misakin Klal Yisrael like Esav is.
It is.
They are?
Sure. It's a tikkun of sinas chinam throughout all the years.
It's the ultimate tikkun of sinas chinam.
The ultimate. Amalek fixes. Yeah, sure. Amalek is the same thing. Does Amalek do tshuva? The Bnei Haman?
No.
Well, Bnei Haman? Okay, formula is the same. You know, but Amalek and is part of Esav, but Esav is very different than the Erevav simply want to prevent Klal Yisrael from getting anywhere. They don't want to lose the Bechor. It's a very important. That's why we're meeting them at the end.
But what do you mean? But they joined Klal Yisrael, so
Moshe accepted them. Moshe didn't know that?
Yeah, he has the same question. Okay. We did.
But what's that? Did the Arab join Klal Yisrael? Why are you making it sound like they?
Yeah, they did join Klal Yisrael.
They joined Klal Yisrael. You serve Klal Yisrael? I mean,
they joined, but deep down, because of the fact that they're very unstable, deep down they feel jealous of Klal Yisrael, and what they want to do is just simply turn Klal Yisrael off the Torah. By reinterpreting the Torah in a different way. We'll get into now. Wait. Now, what does the Arab do? How does it do it? Well, it does it two ways. Okay, the first way is obvious. The second one is completely unobvious. Totally unobvious. And it's the second way that I suddenly become political. First way, it's the job of Esav, right, to make Klal Yisrael into an Apokros. It is. And they did a beautiful job. All these alternative versions of Judaism, okay, Reform, conservative, all the reconstructions, all these fancy doodads that the Jews do, where they say, no, the Torah is emes, but it's a cultural document. It was written by Moshe Rabbeinu. And there's something called Jewish culture, and you could be a Jew without Torah. You mean, that's an Erevav. That's not a Meis Madir. That's not someone who's trying to say, something dropped into Torah, forget about being Jewish. No, it's like the Jews for Jesus. Sorry about that. The Jews for Yoshua, whatever the story is, same thing. They're not telling you to be Ois Yid. They're telling you to be a Yid, but you can also be a Christian at the same time. You can go to church and wear tzitzis and talis and tefillin. No, what's wrong with that? That's what they do. That's what that whole organization does. You see what I'm saying? That's an Erev. What's that? In fact, the guy who discovered, I think Moshe Rosen was I think he was Jewish.
But that's 200-300 years ago.
No, that now, I mean, and so on. So the job of an Erevav is to make a Jew into an Apikoros by simply, and the definition of an Apikoros is a Jew who doesn't believe that the Torah was written by the Bonisham. He can believe that a Jew was given at Sinai. He can believe that Moshe Rabbeinu, again, he wrote it, or the Nevi'im were written, whatever the story is, by the men, you know? But the Bonisham never gave it. He eliminates the divine signature on the Torah. And that's an Erevav. Where do we see that the Erevav did it by the Egel? Because they said to the Jews, this is the God that took you out of Egypt, the Egel. Now, is that a lie? No, it wasn't a lie. It was not a lie. They said, this is the calf that took you out of Egypt. Was that a lie? No, it wasn't a lie. What am I talking about? What am I talking about? They were right and they were wrong. Because you know what that Egel was? The Egel was the greatest piece of Avodah Zorah that ever existed. It could not have been fashioned until that time. Only when the Jews are about to face the final test of receiving the 50 of Mashiach could a test of the Egel even come about. Why? Which is the final test before that. Why? Because what the Egel was, it had the power of the Mashiach ben Yosef sitting on an Avodah Zorah. Do you know why it was a cow, an Egel? An Egel, a cow, a bull represents Yosef. The bull is the symbol of Yosef. They made an Egel, which is a young bull, a young calf, right? Why did they make that? Because that represented Yosef, and what they did was through whatever koiches they had in the Shemus, they took the power of a Mashiach, which was now available because they were about to bring the Gula. It was never available before. You couldn't make an Egel before because the Koyach of Mashiach ben Yosef, the messianic power to liberate, or a Golus was not available until then. So because it became available, so it was available through Kishuv. Once it was available, they said, you know something, what do we need Moshe Rabbeinu for? To tell us, Eidot Mevadoi, we have an Egel that now has the power of Moshe Rabbeinu that says, Yeshot Mevadoi, Mazel Tov. We got a Mashiach ben Yosef that we control, not that controls us. That's the ultimate Avodah Zorah. But it's an Erev Avodah Zorah. Because in the end they said, this is the power that took you out. Taka, this is the Chemesh power. But it's the power in a kishuv, it's the power in a klippa, it's the power in a negative zone, in a chet, in a tumah.
Just like Yeshua.
Yeah, like Yeshua. Exactly, yeah. You're right. In many ways he was like an Egel, exactly. Right, exactly. So that's the way they operate. So the first thing they do is they want to make Klal Yisrael Dapikosim. Now there's a second thing they do, which nobody recognizes, okay? And now we're getting a little political, and this is going to be, this is not Pashut.
So how are they making up because of Rabbi Shimon?
They redefine Judaism, Reform Judaism, conservative. All these Judaism have nothing to do with the Banishon. They're Judaisms.
But we have Tinok Shenishba, which is we have ignorant people.
The first generation.
No, the first generation made Klal Yisrael Apikosim. Okay, that's the first thing. But again, you have to say, to make a Tinok Shenishba. But that's not the main power. That the main goal of an Erevav is to destroy Klal Yisrael at its level. Because the last level of Klal Yisrael is a very inferior, ignorant level. The last test, the final test of Klal Yisrael, is on a level that has to do between the relationship of one Jew to another, Ben Adam Mechaveroi, not Ben Adam Lamakom. Because that's a much higher level. The test of the Egel was a test of the relationship of a Jew to God. A whole different ballgame. But the final test, is not about the Banisham. It is, but that's not where it lies. It mostly lies between one Jew and another, and so on. So it's a whole different ballgame. But the first thing that an Erevav does is make a Jew into an Apikoros. Esav does that also. By accentuating academia, science, and all these things, it also does that. But the Erevav especially, how the different forms of Judaism, reform, conservative reconstruction, and so on. But there's a second way the Erevav does it, which is incredibly invisible. What is that? The isms, socialism, communism, Zionism. What it does, it creates something called a liberal. What is a liberal? What is this mean of liberals? You know, that we have conservatives and we have liberals. What is a liberal? Or they call it progressive. What is the ruchnis of a liberal? And it's amazing. It is so subtle, it is so invisible that it can be sitting right in front of you and you cannot recognize it. What is it? A liberal is very simple. A liberal is a guy who comes along and says, okay, I'm a tzaddik. I'm a tzaddik because I don't believe in God, or I have nothing to do with that, but I believe in humanity. I believe in tzedakah. I believe in compassion. I believe in entitlements, in helping people and so on and so forth. I believe in all of that. I am a tzaddik bein adam lechaveroi. I am a tzaddik in relation to people. God, what do I need God for? I'm already a tzaddik. That's a liberal. How do we know that he's really not a tzaddik and that he's a rasha? How do we know that? It sounds good. Sounds that he's a murdik bal tzedakah. How do we know that? Really? Sounds great. But he says, look, I'm secular. I'm what's called a secular humanist. I believe in the sanctity and the dignity of mankind. I have nothing to do with God telling me what to do. I said, so the essence of a liberal is to become a tzaddik so that he can eliminate the other tzaddik. If I'm a tzaddik between man and man, I don't have to be a tzaddik between the Bnei Shalom. So it's a way to get around the Bnei Shalom. One of the ways to get rid of the Bnei Shalom is by declaring yourself a tzaddik in a different domain. So there's no guilt. Presto, I'm free. So the question is, what's wrong with that argument? So Margaret Thatcher, the former Prime Minister of England, once said beautifully, she said, even socialists, eventually run out of other people's money. What that means is this: I'm a tzaddik. I want to help my brother. But wait a minute, when am I getting the cash? You're going to give him the money. I'm going to tax you, okay? I'm going to redistribute the wealth, okay? And I'm going to do all of these things and tax you and all these things and take that money and give it to him. Why do I do that? To be a tzaddik, but I really want power. The ultimate liberal wants to run away from the Bnei Shalom. He wants to get away from the prikus oil, the oil malchus shamayim. He wants to get away from God and his fancy mitzvahs and his difficulties. He wants to get away from that entire malchus and he wants to say, I'm a tzaddik already, I don't need this. This is the essence of a liberal, although nobody recognizes it, and it does it in many ways. Communism was funded at the beginning of liberalism. There were many Jews involved in that. We won't go into that. Socialism, okay? Zionism, which says, you know something? You want to be Jewish? Just go to Israel, fight for that. That's enough. You don't need God anymore. Forget about it. All of these little things are ways to get rid of God. They are all wars against God.
It's because it's with good-heartedness.
That's why you can't recognize them. They're brilliant. The defense, the maneuver is magnificent. You say the guy's a tzaddik. He has compassion. But you see the flaw that he doesn't want to use his own money, his own mysterious nefesh. It's your money. That's a liberal. Now you have to understand something which is now. Now we're coming to the end over here. Wait. 1 second. We're coming to the end. Everyone understand what I just said? It's a farce. A liberal is a ruchnistic person who wants to annihilate the ruchnis of the Bnei Shalom. It's an amazing thing. In all of you, nobody ever used the tzidkas bein adam lechaveroi to eliminate the tzidkas bein adam lechaveroi. This is a new invention. It is absolutely brilliant. You see suddenly see how it becomes clear. You suddenly see all these guys that are probably mouthing all the time. You know what I mean? They're saying, you know something? You have to have compassion, this, that, like the Civil Liberties Union, Sure. They will see to it that everyone, I think, including the Nazis who want to destroy Klal Yisrael, but they also have freedom of speech. In other words, according to them, it's an absolute thing. There's no such thing as a boundary. There's no such thing as MS, your money is my money, so I can do whatever I want with it. Your MS is my MS, so I can say whatever I want. It's what's called relative morals. There's no such thing as an absolute. As long as you hold, as though chashiva sa'adam, nothing matters anymore. Nothing. There's no values. There's no ethics. There's no God. There's no mitzvahs. Nothing. You see what I'm saying? And why do I need it? Because I have done the main job. The main job was for me to get rid of my guilt. That's my avodas perach, you see? Because I know deep in my soul and my heart that when I defy the Bnei Shalom, when I defy all these things, I'm feeling bad, the pinta le'yi. But something, I'm getting away from that. Very simple. I'm a tzaddik already, Amazing thing, That's a liberal.
And they're all pro-abortion.
What's that? It's another thing, all of them.
Delicious.
The gays. Why is it that liberals always push for gays and so on? Why? Because fundamentally, they have to. Why? Because what's the essence of gay, homosexual thing? It's very simple. This man has a right to have his preferential wife. Whatever that means, you can't take that away. You're in, and so on. So they'll do all of that. But in doing that, they destroy the very fabric of the whole moral aspects and civilization itself, which shows us something else. There's another thing also. There's another Erev Vav, which is much deeper than you think. The function of an Erev, the definition of an Erev Vav is simply this. He doesn't come along with a sheker and says to the emes, get out. Chas v'shalom. He's much smarter than that. He goes over to the emes and he says, you know something? You're true, but lemixas, partially. Moed b'mixas. For example, just like there's an Erev Vav for Klal Yisrael, there's an Erev Vav for any emes. It doesn't make a difference. Even when a goy has a certain emes, there's a guy who's going to undermine it from within. When you undermine an emes from within by distorting it and exaggerating it, you are operating like an Erev Vav. So the amazing thing, it's not only the Jew who has an Erev Vav, the goy also has an Erev Vav. The greatest goyish nation on earth, America. Because America in 1776 achieved something that no nation ever before. What? They suddenly respected human rights, okay, and the dignity of man. Now, watch. Where? The Declaration of Independence. That all men are created equal and all of them are given inalienable rights. The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Wow. That's an emes. That's Ben Adam Chaver at its highest. Asa finally arrived. Finally, in 1776, and so on. And they came out with this incredible emes. The American system of law, the American system of the separation of church and state, the American system of the rights of man is absolute tzidkis. Without a question, because that's the Torah, agrees with all the thing. What does the Erev Vav do? It's very simple. It says, right to the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's good. But they change one word, and they said, you're entitled to life, liberty, and happiness. They take out the word pursuit, which means that the government is now chayav, the government is obligated to give you happiness. That's called entitlements. But wait a minute, to give you happiness, I have to make a lot of money for that. Where am I going to get all the money? The liberal, it's very simple. Tax that guy, redistribute his wealth. So by changing one word in the Bill of Rights, they've created this entire liberal philosophy which exists in America. But what are they doing? What are the liberals doing in America and so on and so forth? It's an Erev Vav, but it's an Erev Vav based on the one thing that Asa finally came up with, which is a tremendous emes, which is the importance and the dignity of man. By changing one word, they changed the whole thing. See, so suddenly the government is not there to protect your rights or to protect the rights of a minority. The government is there to what? Guarantee you happiness. That's an entitlement. Here, unemployment. This, help you. You want a house? Nadach. You want a car? Nadach. Whatever you want, nadach. It says happiness. They eliminated one word. Now you may say, okay, so who cares? But you don't understand something. You don't understand what we are looking at here now. You see it. Let's look at this Erev Vav in America. You don't say, Abraham Lincoln said something very powerful. Abraham Lincoln said that America is the last great hope of mankind. Many people chosh he was Jewish, by the way. I don't know if you know. His mother's maiden name was a Jewish name in Illinois at that time. He was the only president that never went to a church, never had a church affiliation. The chosh that he was a Yid. That's an aside. But besides that, what happened? What does that mean? It means you have to understand something. Look at the world. There is not one country on this planet that has a tzaddik for a leader. They are all Rishonim without exception. It's a shocking thing. It's like Lord Acton said, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Every government on earth is composed of Rishonim Gemurim. Absolutely. So now, who's the only thing that stops them? Why is it that they don't come out of the woodwork? They do usually, but what's holding them back? The answer is America. They are afraid of America, fundamentally. If you bankrupt America with entitlements and they have no more money, the policeman is dead. Do you know what happens when the policeman is now dead and there's no more cop on the block? What happens? All the criminals come out. There's no one to stop them at all. So fundamentally, the liberals don't understand. They don't understand what they're going to be accused of. You don't understand this. They're not going to be accused of simply distorting the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution. No, it's not what it's about. they're going to be accused of distorting the emes in such a way that they destroy the ability of the world to what? To exemplify or personify emes. But once you take away that emes in the world, there is nothing left. You know what I mean? It's like, why is a dayan before he paskins has to look at Gehenna? Because if you're ma'avos the din, if you corrupt the emes, right, so that it's twisted, there's nothing. So people don't know where to find the emes anymore. It corrupts the bria. It corrupts all of creation. So the liberal in his what's called false compassion is destroying America and so on and so forth and the world. But in doing that, they destroy the world. It's not just America. They don't understand that. You don't understand these things. The seventh mitzvah of Noach says that the goyim are obligated to make courts of law and government. You know what that means? It means that they have to create a system of law which makes sense, which is emes. You see, as soon as they distort that through either corruption or distortion, they transgress that law. Why? The whole world rests on that law. If a country no longer represents a judicial, an emistic system, an honest system, you know what I mean, of justice, it's over. You see, and then all the people become cynical. So the whole nation becomes a bunch of crooks and so on, because they say if the government can do it, we can do it too. You know what I mean? Politicians don't understand where they're going. They have no idea where they're headed for. All of them. They don't realize when you corrupt law, or you corrupt certain things, or chesed, or tzedakah, or emes, so that you jeopardize the wherewithal, the ability of mankind to survive, you are going straight, not to Gehenna, you are going out the window, out into Ibud. That's where you're going. Because the bonus is going to turn around and say, you destroyed my world. Because of your liberalism, because what you're doing, you destroyed my world, because there's nobody that represents emes anymore. So there's no kiyum to the bria. Do you understand? That's why Sodom was annihilated. Why? Because Sodom went against those mitzvahs. And you understand, what was the problem with what was the problem with Sodom? See, you think the problem with Sodom was what? They were all mushchasim, means fundamentally they were perverts, you know, they were, all the things they did, you know, homosexuality, bestia, what they did, you know, and so therefore they represented actions that were terrible. That wasn't what, so the Baruch went ahead and killed them with a special way, gophers, so they came down with the Shemaim. You know, you want to kill someone, you got tornadoes, you got floods, you got disease. You don't have to change the whole bria to do this. Why did the Baruch do that in Sodom? What was the chashivas? Because it wasn't what Sodom was doing. It's not. It's that Sodom was saying that what we're doing is right. It's emes. It's law. What they did was they legislated hashchasa, corruption, distortion into law. Once you do that, it's over. And the Baruch said, you know something? You're making this into law, so this is emes. So then, where do people learn the emes? Nowhere. Suddenly, now I tell you what my law is. And what's my law? My law is not teva. My law is teva. Law for law. You distort the law of emes.
So they got turned over.
They got turned over and destroyed. Abiruchnius. When the God destroys you in spiritual ways, you know what I mean? That means that it's Him against you. You see what I'm saying? And that's what this is. Fundamentally, when you change the laws in such a way, you jeopardize the planet, you jeopardize the minushi, you jeopardize the zolosa, everything that God's hope, so to speak, is on people. You destroy their value, you destroy what emes is, there's nothing left. The Baruch steps in and says, now, I'm over law, I'm l'mayla medechat teva, watch this, like the mabul and everything else. So we need to understand, when you make sheker sound like emes, God moves in. When you do sheker, okay, you do it. But when you say sheker is emes, boom, suddenly you get in. You see what I'm saying? And that's fundamentally the liberal philosophy. They don't realize, a lot of them. Will they be accused? Absolutely. Absolutely. They will not be accused because they stole money from someone that didn't belong to them, because they taxed the rich to grab their money. No, they want to give. They will be accused of what? Of destroying the bria. Shocking. They don't know this yet. They don't know this yet. You know, when that din comes down on all these politicians, you know, and so on and so forth, they are in incredible trouble. Now, what does this all have to do with us? You see, what is this? So what is the last Nisoyan of Klal Yisrael? And you don't need to know it. It's right under your nose. And you don't realize this, and so on. And so on. What is the last one? And who is this segment that I'm talking about really? The Hatzolah, that we're here to try and do something on this, and so on. Are you all with me?
Yeah.
How does this all sound so far?
Fascinating.
Well, troublesome in a way. The last final test of Klal Yisrael has to do between man and man, right? So, what are these nisninis? So let's look. It's to see what, now, up to now, what is it that prevented the Mashiach, the Mashiach coming? Lashon hara, mechilas, machloikis, slander, constant controversy between Jews. These were the things that destroyed the achdus of Klal Yisrael. But you know something? In my opinion, this is passé. Not passé really. It's still important. But in my opinion, because the Ikvas of the Mashiach, the last generation, represents a generation, okay, who is fundamentally a tinik shenishba, okay, in that kind of sense, because of the clause of the Mashiach, it's a different test. So God is testing them now for a different reason. You know something? I'm not going to test you with Lashon Hara anymore. I mean, okay, that's bad, but you know, that's not the grade, the mark. I'm going to test you for sinas chinam. But sinas chinam has many levels, right? There's many levels. Top level. Sinas chinam means you don't like someone, unwanted hatred. You don't have a reason for hating someone, but you do something bad to them anyway. Okay, let's look at the top level. Someone comes to ask you a favor, I don't want to do it. I don't like you, I don't want to do it. Okay. Or the next level, he's a mazik. He hurt someone. Next level of sin, for no reason at all, you know. Or next level is lashon hara. He speaks slander. The next level, shema, whatever. And so on. Next level, machloikas. He constantly creates all kinds of conflicts in Klal Yisrael. Then the next level, after that, Saamod dam reecha. Your brother is dying and you are doing nothing about it. That's a much lower. Next level after that, murder, an accomplice to murder. There are many levels. Sinas chinam is a motive. It's not an action. Sinas chinam means I want to hurt you bad because I don't like you. I have no other reason. That's sinas chinam. Sinner, hatred, chinam, for no reason at all. If you hurt me and then I hurt you back, that makes sense. But if I hurt you for no reason other than I can't stand who you are because you threaten my self-esteem, okay, and you give me an inferiority complex, okay, that's called sinas chinam. But there are many actions you can take. The action that I believe is dominant today, that the Bnei Shem is now testing, is lo Saamod dam reecha. Thou shalt not stand idly by thy brother's blood. You see, that's why we see something that never happened before. We're looking at Oslo, where suddenly there are many Jews in Israel who simply who voted to put the entire West Bank, 200,000 Jews, into danger of the Arabs, giving them 50,000 Arabs guns in an army who now patrol all those Jews. That's lo Saamod. Okay? Gush Katif, where they took 10,000 families and threw them out for nothing. And what did the Bnei Shem do? He gave them what? Gaza. And look what Gaza's Hamastan. You see, that's all it is. So, but this was a test. These were tests. You see, you think that the problem is the Arabs. The Arabs have nothing to do with the final test. It's Jew to Jew. It's what are you willing to do? Is it so important to get rid of God? Okay, that you want to create a liberal thing where everyone is equal, the Jew and the Arab, everyone, that you have to put other Jews in danger. So that's what the Bnei Shem is testing. In other words, he said, what do I mean to you? Do I mean to you so little that if you have to destroy another Jew, you'll do it? What is that? You mean? Oslo Gush Katif is the attempt by Israeli liberals, fundamentally, you know, what they call the left. And these people to say, you know something, the Arab and us are the same, you know what I mean? And therefore we want to be good to them. We want to give them Gaza, we want to give them own state. But wait a minute, they're demonstrating that when you give them that stuff, they want to kill us. You know something? That's a different problem. We'll get to that at another time. That's like the liberal with the redistribution of wealth. You know what I mean? In other words, I want to equalize all people and make everyone the same, but I want to do it at the expense or the threat to your life. That's what they do. To maintain that liberalism. You understand? So that's the test. So when you look at it, you begin to understand all these things that took place today. You see it?
What about us?
Oh. The American Jew. What's the problem? What is the problem with the American Jewish liberal? Okay, let's look at that. Okay? That's millions of people. Millions of Jews. And from what I understand, someone was telling me, he told me a lot of other people, from Jews as well. What is that problem? The problem is Iran. Persia. Persia appears in human history to what? To prevent the Geula. You have to, Bavel, Babylonia put the Jews into exile. Okay? Once they got exiled, Persia then takes over Babylonia, and the Jews are supposed to go back after 70 years back and build the Beis HaMikdash. Achashverosh, and the whole story of Purim, wants to stop them by giving them an asoyan, by putting the kalim, or the vessels of the Beis HaMikdash, on the table of the feast. The final test was given to them whether or not they considered the fact that they would destroy, the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, and when they went to the feast of Achashverosh, they were saying to God, we don't really care about the Beis HaMikdash. Even though they were drinking from the kalim, celebrating the fact that Achashverosh now knew that there's no more Nigula. I mean, that's the whole story of Purim. That Purim is really the story of the redemption. They were supposed to go back. But the final test was how they going to relate to the Beis HaMikdash. And they failed miserably because Achashverosh made the party to celebrate the fact that Yirmiyahu's prophecy was wrong. That it was more than 70 years and nothing happened. So he made this party because now I'm the master of the world. And I don't have to worry about those Jews and so on and the prophecy of Yirmiyahu. So he made a big party which the Jews joined into. There was kosher food, by the way. But they joined into using the kalim or the vessels from the Beis HaMikdash. And then the something goes to God and says, this is the people you want to redeem? You want to bring back the Beis HaMikdash to this? Is this a joke? Suddenly Haman comes up and tries to stop the whole thing. That's the story of Purim. Now guess what? Now, Iran, Ahmadinejad comes up and says, you know something? Holocaust. I'm a Shiite. I believe in the Mashiach. I believe in the last Imam is coming around, okay? And that's going to be the whole world. So we're going to restore the caliphate with the last Imam, and he's the Mashiach, and so on. And you know something? The Jews, we have to annihilate them. Holocaust, Holocaust, Holocaust. He's talking about Holocaust. More than that, he's actually building a nuclear weapon to accomplish it. Mazel tov. So, what is everyone doing about it? What is everyone doing about it? Okay? Here's a man who's openly threatening the Holocaust, which we all experienced or had a memory of just 70 years ago. I mean, it was the most catastrophic event in human history. So he's saying this. So what are we doing over here? So everyone's playing games. The Israeli government's playing games. What? By negotiating this, not playing games with the American administration. Well, this, that, how do we stop that? Well, and so on and so forth. And Netanyahu, they don't do a thing. They're not. You don't wait till the guy's building a gun. He's putting it together. He says, when I finish this gun, I'm going to shoot your son. You wait till he finishes the gun? Or you blow his head off immediately? What do you do? If it was your son, you'd know what to do. But of course, the Israeli government says, you know something? We'll wait. We'll see how far they get. We'll see what's going on and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? Are they insane? And they can easily take care of Iran. Iran is a nothing. It's a third world country with nothing. You know, Israel is a nuclear power. They can nuke the whole country in 2 minutes if they want. And they let them do this? What is going on? And of course, you have the American government and the European government. Nope. We'll give them sanctions, we'll play games. We'll have another meeting and another meeting and another meeting. We'll have 1,000 meetings and we'll up these sanctions. Meanwhile, 4 years later, they're building a bomb for the next 4 to 5 years and years they're building it. And they're already at the point where they almost have enough enriched uranium to do that and so on. It's true they don't have it yet finished, but they're moving there and they're building containment facilities where you can't bomb anymore. Forget the name of the ring one, forget the name of the...
Natanz.
What? Natanz, another one. That's impregnable. They're almost finished with it. And the Israelis are afraid once they get those centrifuges into that, I forget the name of it, you can't bomb it anymore. It's very difficult. It's too tough. So they're all playing games. Well, let's figure out when is Iran going to finish. Like, what's important is not what they want to do, it's when they're going to get there or when they're going to finish. This is insane. And the whole American government fundamentally, and the Democratic Party fundamentally, and the current administration, and I'm not going to go into names, okay, is fundamentally completely behind us. You see it. Now, is that a problem? No. Even though the Medrash says very clearly that right before the Mashiach comes, Persia is going to agitate the nations, and the Jews will become very frightened, okay? And a Basco comes out and says, the hour of your redemption has arrived. So we know that the Gula doesn't happen until Persia comes and has the ability to frighten the world. Whoever thought that Persia would have this ability, right? They're a third world nation. Suddenly we see that the whole purpose of the Ayatollah Khomeini in 1979 was to create a Shiite government to begin the idea of what? Of bringing their Mashiach and annihilating the Jews. The whole thing started then, but no one saw it then. And then now suddenly they're building this thing. So The question is, where's the danger? So we think the danger is from Iran. There's no danger from Iran, not really. What is the danger? You see, Europe is playing, they just got the Nobel Peace Prize, Europe. Europe is playing with Iran and doing nothing fundamentally. America and the Democrats, and the Republicans also, Bush did nothing. They're playing with this in Toronto, and the Jews are also playing with it. The Israeli government is playing with it. So where's the Nisayon? Where's the final test? Is the final test on Europe? Yes and no. Is the final test on the Israeli government? Yes and no. Is the final test on the American government, both Democrats and Republicans? Yes and no. Where is the final test? That's the card. That's the missing card. And you know where that test is? The American liberal Jew. He is about to, 70% of the American Jews in America are about to vote for the continuation of this program, of fundamentally letting Iran slide to a large extent until almost the end, and making believe that they're doing so. They're willing to vote for an administration and a president and a party who's completely enabling Iran to continue moving that direction. Now, is that an Nisayon? Is there a greater Nisayon than that? You have a guy who's threatening a Holocaust. You know what a Holocaust is? That's unbelievable, okay? And you're about to vote for an administration to repeat what and do almost nothing, no matter what they say. Even though the administration says, well, we really don't want to do it, we're going to stop. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's a complete lie. And everything they say and do is obviously a lie. And so on. And it's clear. The Banishim has made it clear to everyone. Yet they are willing to do it. The shaila is, why are they willing to do that? Why is the American Jew, 70% of the American Jewish secular Jew, will vote for the current administration? Why would they do that? So you may say, okay, no, it's not that simple. You have to understand something. Who are these people? Either these people are Gilgulim, reincarnations from the door of World War II, the American Jew who did very nothing when the Holocaust is taking place. So God is saying, I'm bringing you back, and I'm going to see this time when it's in your face, and there's somebody there who's threatening a Holocaust and doing something about it. Let me see who you will vote for. Let me see what you can do now. It's simple. All you have to do is vote for the other guy, or don't vote at all, but don't vote. You know what I mean? Let's see what you do. This is the ultimate Lo Saamod Reecha. There's no bigger Lo Saamod Reecha. Why? Because you can't say you never heard of the Holocaust. You can't say what? It's right in front of you. You can't say that this guy is not serious. He's very serious. He gets in front of the entire United Nations and constantly says what he's going to do. More than that, he's building the thing. So what are you going to say? You see the problem. And the ultimate problem is not that. The ultimate problem is what? It's not only a Saamod. It's worse than that. Mesira. Mesira is the greatest chet in the Torah. V'lamal shinim. Al tehi sikva. And Chazal say these are the Moisrim. People who give Yidden over to what? To Goyim. For the possibility of them death or Gazelis. That's Mesira. So, Ein lo chelik lo ilam haba. That's what we're looking at. And nobody sees this. You think you could put your mark on a voting card and you think, okay, I decided to vote for that. You think what? You're going to attach this to the Banishim, the Bezin Shemala? What do you think? They're fools up there? You don't think they're going to say to you, how can you vote? What? And they're voting for what? What? Entitlements? Is that what they want? Because what? Because the current administration gives them whatever entitlements they want? Is that what it is? Or what? Or they're going to have a better economy? This guy has a record already of killing the American economy. So they're not going to, they know that. So then why are they doing this? Why are they voting for a leftist liberal government? Why? Even at the possibility of a Holocaust, why are they saying we will believe that they're going to do something? Why? And the answer is simply because what is a liberal? A fundamental liberal is what? Is a person who says, Ich bin a tzaddik. I'm already a tzaddik, I don't need the Banisham. I don't have to listen to him at all. So this is a war between the Jew and God. This is a war that's taking place. And this Nisayon is greater than the Nisayon of the Chet of the Egel. Why? Because that Nisayon was bein out in the Makam. It was between the Jews and between between the Banisham. It wasn't bein out in the Mechaverui. And that had 2 million Jews or what? There's 4 million Jews in America, 5 million, 6 million Jews in America. There are 4 or 5 million Jews that are liberals like that are going to vote for the current thing. You're talking about millions more. And you're talking about Mesira. You're not talking about Lashon Hara. This is an endangered group. These are our brothers. You see. And even though this is an asoyin, a final test for them, they all stand with the possibility of losing their chelik in olam haba. This is not a small thing, not only because of them, but there's something else here you don't see. What about the Rabbanu Shalom? Somebody has to have Rachmanis Kaviyach on the Rabbanu Shalom. These are his kids that he's actually testing. You know how he must feel? He knows what he has to do, what happens if they start voting for another thing. You know what I'm saying? These are his kids. You know, and do you think that one Jew is not his child? Could you imagine Kaviyach, the tsar that the Rabbanu Shalom has, that he has to give such an asoyin to a door like this, that this is the final test? You right? And he knows that they're going to fail. Probably they're going to fail. He knows that. So what is he going to do, Kaviyachol? Well, I'm sure he's got something up his sleeve. But that's not the point. The point is it's not pashut. You see. Now, this is why I call this meeting. Yes. Why? Because we have to show that, that there's no such thing on this planet as a Jew who doesn't care for these people. We care. We care about what's going to happen to them. We have to do whatever we can, and we can't do much. To give a spala. So on some level, they either pass this sign or something. We have to be mispala. You see what I'm saying? We have to show also that there's somebody in this planet, there's a Jew on this planet who also cares about the feelings kaviyachol of the Rabbanu Shalom, who's now got to look at his children, roim of Klal Yisrael, to a large extent, that are about to annihilate themselves. You see what I'm saying? And there's nothing. It's a midbar out there. A total midbar. Now, do I make sense or I don't make sense? I make a lot of sense. But this is invisible. Nobody even knows what's happening in front of them because they don't know this hashkafa. They don't know all the stuff I taught you about the concept of a gula, the concept of a final test, the concept of a tinik shenishba, the concept of ikvas mashiach, the concept of the Mashiach's clause. All of these things, they have no idea what's going on. I'm talking about the whatever, you know what I'm talking. Nobody has a concept that we're looking at the possibility of another Holocaust, but not the Holocaust that Mashiach Ahmadinejad is talking about. We're looking at a Holocaust that's about to come on these Klal Yisrael, on a tremendous chelik in Klal Yisrael. That's a whole different ball game. Now you may say, well, what's possible? If they vote right, if they look away and they say, what do you call it, that we don't care, we want our entitlements, we want what we want, whatever the story is, we need to be liberals to be tzaddikim, okay? So you may say, so they're moistum, so therefore ain't no chelik ma'imabo. So we could be mispalal, we can do some things. First of all, I heard of this in these long time. What can happen to people who are about to lose the chelik ma'imabo? So I'm just going to say, in just 2 minutes, the concept of olam haba. The difference between a yid and a goy. A yid, when he goes to Olam Haba, he's a Baal. Means he makes Olam Haba. He develops the consciousness directly, where he's masik the yichud of the Rabbanu Shalom, and we call that Olam Haba. A goy doesn't have such a consciousness. He can't even get that consciousness. He's not a Baal. So how does the goy have shaykhs to Olam Haba? How? Even though it says he does. We know that Hasidim Musulim go to Olam Haba. With what? They can't build it. They can't grow it. Can't develop it. And the answer is something called schirus, which is the opposite of bailus. Bailus is when you own something. Schirus is when you rent it. So he's a soicha. What's a soicha? Means this. It means that a goy, if he's a chassid and so on, with the bonus, he attaches that goy to the yid. And the goy is not conscious of olam haba. He's conscious of the yid being conscious of olam haba. That's called renting. I rent your head to see what you're experiencing. That's the goy. A goy cannot develop a consciousness, you see. What he does is he can rent your brain, or what's called a nisbah. He can attach himself to your brain, to your, and through you. That's why it says, when the Baruch Shem said, you are the bracha. Why? Because they can all rent your head in the end. They don't have any heads. You know what I mean?
Like Obama said.
What's that?
You didn't build that.
What? Oh, you didn't build it. Okay, but you understand saying that's a goy. So then the shayla is what's possible for Moisa. So I'm thinking about this, and I don't know because I am not fully the mechanical creation of olam haba in that sense. But I believe that there's a middle madrega. That there's a madrega where you don't build your olam haba and you don't fully rent it. But in a certain sense, you can build an olam haba, you can build in somebody's head your olam haba. You're not going through his consciousness actually. What you're doing is you are taking a piece of his consciousness in a way, reorienting it. So now you have reshus. That's like your shtick. But your shtick on him, you see this with Hasidus. I don't know if you know this. How is a Rebbe, the Rebbe, Hasidic Rebbe, but the whole kind of the Hasidim, through the Rebbe are koin olam haba. You should know something. Part of that is that when a person cannot earn olam haba on his own, he rents the space somewhere else. And in a certain sense, and that's the goy. But I believe that there's another madrega which is in between the two, because of the guarantee of a yid, where he can actually own. It's like a co-op. He owns a share in your brain. Now you may say, well, what do you get out of it? And the answer is,
Lease to own.
what's that?
It's a lease to own.
What do you get out of it? You're an owner, but what do you get out of somebody owning a piece of your head? What you get out of it is that every other piece doubles in size, because you will matzah another yid. Not so pushy. Now, is this mechanism true?
It's supposed to you.
I don't know. Could it be true? What?
Ramchal speaks that tzaddikim saved.
Yeah, they do. But the shayla is how can you save someone who wasn't koina olam haba through nam niksufa violence? And the answer is he rents space in your head. He sees olam haba through your eyes. It's like he gets back into your head and looks through your eyes. He what he does is he takes a chelik of your retina and kind of like works on it or something like that. Whatever.
He has to have some schus.
He's got to have, but the schirus is where he simply sees olam haba through you. He never sees it on his own. That's bias. Schirus when he sees it through you. But a moser who's not a yid, who has a guarantee of olam haba. So I think, and I may be wrong over here, okay, is that I think that there may be another madrega in Rachamim. Moshe Rabbeinu found a madrega in Rachamim where he can take the Or of Mashiach and bring it down into the Zoyama. Okay, maybe there's a madrega in Rachamim for all those guys that are about to vote for you-know-who, and for that administration, and will sign their name on the dotted line in terms of that, and will be guilty on some level of Masira. I believe that there may be a new level that will be created, that the Mitzvah Rachman at the end of the world, at the end of time, is a new Mitzvah Rachman that it can give you bilis in a schirus. Where someone suddenly simply doesn't rent your head, he owns a piece of your head. But again, it's your head. Who knows? So, I finish. This is the purpose, right? This is the purpose of this year tonight. I'm sorry, you guys are great guys. I didn't come back to give a share. I came back to do something about that. That's why what I like to do is pass around the Tilim and say tu kapitlach for all these people that somehow, okay, and what we need to spout to the Banasham, okay, many guys, okay. And this is not a small thing, this sounds very strange to yeshiva guys, I know. Because you guys are very in your own head, in your own world, in your own dalaramas. We have to go out of the dalaramas because millions of Jews are on sakana. I believe that. And I believe that we need to do what we can. A yid is mispala for another yid. Okay? Kol Yisrael Arabim Zelazeh. And I came here, okay, to, in a certain sense, enable your participation in this, maybe an incredible mitzvah. Incredible mitzvah. And nobody's doing it. So if I'm right, you're noit l'schar kulam. This is not a pashut thing. So what I'm spalal that what the Bunisham number one should possibly cancel the Messiah. It's too big. You talk about Messiah, you talk about a Holocaust. It's too big. It's gigantic in Messiah. If he doesn't want to cancel it, which I don't think he will, okay, then he should make the Messiah so clear that the current administration has no ability to deceive the Jew and so on, to vote for that possibility, that they see clearly what's in front of them. And if chas v'sholom, they find that they fail this thing, that on some level, okay, we need to swallow that there should be some way around this in Olam Haba where at least they don't lose their chelik in Olam Haba. You see, that we should say that at least there's one kehila here, and it's in the world, because I don't believe anyone in the world is doing this or even sees this, okay? Is that there's one kehila in the planet Earth and this world that is concerned about Achenu Kabeis Yisrael, A, about what's about to happen to them, and B, is concerned about the Bnei Shalom and about what he needs to do to them. So there has to be one kehila that the Bnei Shalom can point to. And this is not gaius. The Banishim is looking for this. One key, the point you say, you know something? Because when the Makati comes to the Banishim and says, you see, nobody cares. Nobody gives a damn. Why should you care? Why should you, pardon the line, the French? Nobody cares. Why should you care? Just do what you have to do, like you said to Avon. You know, you not only your son has to die, you have to kill your son. So there has to be one Kehillah where we can say, you know something, there is one Kehillah that responded to this. There's one Kehillah that said, you know something, we're going to make a difference. We don't believe it's going to go. You know what I mean? And whatever our voice is, how low it is, how small it is, it's a coil. And absolutely it's a coil that will be, I believe, heard in the Bezin Shemala if what I'm saying is true. So, pass out the Kilim, and I think we should say two Kapitlich very quickly. What is that? Essay on Imam Akim. Okay. Who wants to say it? Who wants to lead? Who? Somebody lead.
Maybe, maybe.
Do they have a choice? Do they have a choice? They don't.
We can't examine that. That's not our first examine. We know this Nisoyin Shredra.
By Levi.
Who would like to discuss the value of the Kilim?
You should be you.
Okay, sure.
You brought this
Keine
up.
der Igresa.
Keine der Igresa.
Okay, where is that the Shema?
That's an amazing name.
Yes, so then Imam Akim.
Kuf Chaf
Kuf Chaf Aleph and Kuf Chaf.
and then Kuf Lamed.
Okay.
Kuf Chaf Aleph.
Shila Ma'alois Eso Einai Elo HaHorim Me'ayin Yover
Shir Maloi Sesai Eloi Me'ayin Yavo Ezri.
Ezri Me'im Adonai Oisei Shomayim V'Oreh.
Ezri Me'im Adonai Yosei Shamayim V'Oretz.
Al Yitein Lamoit Raglecho Al Yonu Shomrecho.
Al Yitein Lamoit Raglecho Al Yonu Shomrecho.
Hine Lo Yonim V'Lo Yishoim Shomei Yisrael.
Hine Lo Yonim V'Lo Yishoim Shomei Yisrael.
Adonai Shomrecho Adonai Tzilcho Al Yad Yeminecho.
Adonai Shomrecho Al Tzilcho Al Yad Yeminecho.
Yoimam HaShemesh Lo Yakekov Yoreach Baloilo.
Yoimam HaShemesh Lo Yakekov Yoreach Baloilo.
Adonai Yishmorcho Mikol Ra Yishmor Es Nafshecha.
Adonai Yishmorcha Mikol Ra Yishmor Es Nafshecha.
Adonai Yishmor Zeischo Uvoecho Me'ato V'Yaroilo.
Adonai Yishmor Zeischo Uvoecho Me'ato V'Yaroilo.
Shir HaMa'aleis Mimamakim Kvosicho Adonai.
Shir HaMa'aleis Mimamakim Kvosicho Adonai.
Adonai Shimo B'Koili Tiyeno Oznecho Kashuvois L'Kol Tachnunoi. Adonai Tishmo Yo Adonai Miyamoi. Imcho Haslicho Leman Tivorei. Visi Adonai Kivso Nafshi V'Lidvaroi Hocholti. Nafshi L'Adonai Mishoimim Laboiker Shoimim Laboiker. Yachel Yisrael El Adonai Ki Im Adonai HaChesed V'Harbe Imoi Fidus. Hu Yiftes Yisrael Mikol Avonai Yisrael. Big Shekoyach, David.
Und wenn wir ja wenn wir machen wir lachen wir